What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Film Fanatic back here. Going to talk to you about another movie that I came across and kind of share my 2 cents on it. So I just watched this movie. I came across this movie on Netflix called Blonde. And I must say that, first and foremost, let me kind of preface this by saying that I have no interest really in movies that take place during this era. It's nothing against them. I just typically aren't drawn to that kind of era, the 30s to the 50s, that kind of thing. They just really kind of grabbed me or caught my attention. As far as like following Marilyn Monroe, being a fan of her, being a fan of that era, I'm not in the. I mean, when I say I'm not in the slightest, that makes it sound bad, like I'm against Marilyn Monroe, which I'm not. I just didn't have a feeling either way about her. I'm not a fan. I'm not against her. I've just never really paid much attention to her that much. I mean, I knew a lot of like conspiracy theories around her with JFK. They had a thing going on, but I really never paid much attention to her over the years. So I'm coming at this movie as just a straight up film and movie fan. I'm not really one to follow. I have no idea about the history of Marilyn Monroe other than what everyone else knows. I know she was just blonde bombshell, considered sex goddess back in her era. But other than that, other than a few I know she kind of had a troubled life. But I really not a fan or didn't really keep up with her like a lot of other people do. But I will say, strictly from a film, cinema, movie standpoint, I have to say, guys, this was a really great, surprisingly good movie. I mean, where to begin? It's really, God, it's hard to explain what makes this movie so good. It's the way it's shot, the way it's filmed, the way it organically tells a story without telling a story. There's no biases, there's no agenda. There's no like narrative that the director and the filmmaker that made this movie is trying to push. They're just straight up want to tell a story without telling you a story. They want you to experience kind of her life. They want you to experience it like if you were living in her shoes, basically. It's unbiased. It's not preachy. And that's another thing, too. Another reason why I'm real surprised this movie is good. I'll probably give away what my politics are saying this, but I don't give a shit. But yeah, a lot of movies, especially on Netflix, are really guilty of being woke. No matter what era it takes place in, no matter what the movie is about, they always find some way to insert their woke messaging or their wokeness in it, being gender swapping, race swapping, be it them talking, trying to push this social justice message through the eyes of this person, even though it has nothing to do with the story. And I went into this. Besides that, I've been really let down over the last couple of years over latest Netflix entries. They've just been real cookie cutter. Nothing grabs my attention. I mean, it gets few and far between on Netflix for me to really come across something that said, oh, that was amazing. So I was really going into this movie with really low expectations. I was thinking it's a Netflix original. They're going to find some way to A, make it woke and try to push the message, and B, just not be that great of a movie, because Netflix is all about turning out quantity over quality, it seems. But I must say that I was really impressed. I mean, really, when I say impressed, I'm really impressed with the movie to the point that probably the best movie I've seen all year. Really surprised by it. Really well done. It alternates between black and white and color, widescreen, and the side letterbox where it's black on the side, 16:9, to give you this feel that you're really watching a movie from the 50s. That's another thing that kind of drives me nuts about current filmmakers. Is when the big craze now is making nostalgia movies that take place in the 80s and the 70s. Think Stranger Things, a few other movies and shows I can't really think of. I know they're out there. I'm drawing a blank though. But one thing I will find is you can tell that when you watch a majority of movies that are made setting in the 70s and 80s, it looks like they're just, you can tell they're movies that were made in 2022 or 2020 or 2021 that just happen to be based in the 70s and 80s. The only other movie, I kind of digress a little bit here, the only other movie that really got it right of making a movie that took place in the 70s and made you really believe you were watching a film from the 70s was The House of the Devil. Ty West directed, fantastic, phenomenal horror movie, came out in 2009. Highly recommended. An excellent movie. Anyway, that movie came out in 2009, and the settings in the mid to late 70s, and the way it's filmed, it just really makes you believe. Like, if I didn't know this movie was filmed in 2009, I would think, oh yeah, this is a movie in 1970s. Anyway, back on point. So the movie Blonde. So basically, it follows Marilyn Monroe's life. It kind of follows her life from her troubled childhood up through her career. My main takeaway from the movie is she was just kind of this directionless, almost vagabond type character. She really never got into her own. Like, her real name is Norma Jean, and she kind of goes from love interest to love interest. Yeah, it kind of touches upon her film career. It touches a lot on her troubled history with her mom. Her dad not being there is a really big overarching narrative. And she really is just this troubled character. But more so, I'm more impressed with the movie and how it's made. It has Adrian Brody in it. The actress, I don't know, she's not a well-known actress, but she does a phenomenal job as playing Marilyn Monroe. But the way the movie's made, it really reminds me of old school 1990s, 1980s good Hollywood. And Hollywood put out really good quality content. They weren't trying to appease everybody and be woke. They were just like, we're going to make a great movie. I'll say this. I would say it's on the level. This is going to sound crazy. Again, a lot of you may have varying opinions when you watch the movie, but it's really on the same level as like artists like Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese. You can tell when you watch a Martin Scorsese, even Oliver Stone. In fact, speaking of Oliver Stone, I watched Natural Born Killers again the other day. Phenomenal movie. But you know how you watch certain directors. You watch Oliver Stone, you watch Quentin Tarantino, you watch Martin Scorsese, and when you're watching their films, they're just this undeniable, artful, high quality, articulated message and movie. It's just hard to explain. The cinematography, the acting, the way everything is perfectly shot, the timing, the cadence of the actors and the characters. The cadence of the actors and characters, just little nuances that add up to make it known that you're watching a phenomenal movie. And this is what this reminds me of. This reminds me of old school Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, old school Oliver Stone in his prime type of filmmaking. I was completely immersed from start to finish in the movie. It's a beautiful, well done movie. Every scene almost looks like something you'd want to hang on your wall. And it just I've never seen a movie so effortlessly tell, like every movie that comes out, be it a masterpiece or a great movie, they tell us, here's a perfect example I'm talking about. When you watch a Stanley Kubrick movie, think about 2001, The Shining, even Eyes Wide Shut, among Clockwork Orange. Stanley Kubrick had this way of telling a story without telling you a story. He had a way of drawing you into this experience, this immersive experience. And really, this movie reminds me of a Stanley Kubrick movie. I mentioned Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese. Stanley Kubrick, I'll say this. The movie is so good and such high quality. Someone could have told me, hey, this was Stanley Kubrick's. I know people say Eyes Wide Shut was his last movie, but this was kind of his lost passion project that he made right before dying. This is his Stanley Kubrick's really last movie that he made, and I would believe it. That's how well done this movie is. It's just something about it. It really has this lightning in a bottle feel to it that when you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, this is a once in a 10-year good. Like There Will Be Blood had that same quality. Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood had that same. Oh yeah, this is going to be a movie that people will talk about 10 to 15, 20 years from now as being a masterpiece. I definitely get that sense from this movie, from Blonde. It's just everything from the performances is good, the way the story is told, the cinematography, the imagery, the acting. It's just a phenomenal movie, guys. It's really hard for me to pinpoint what makes it so phenomenal, what makes it so good. I can pinpoint the tangible things like the acting, the art style, the direction, but it has this intangible quality to it. It's not pretentious. It's not preachy. It's not telling you a story like, hey, this is a movie about Marilyn Monroe. We're going to tell you Marilyn Monroe's story. And they're acting. It's so effortless, so natural, so organic. It's an experience that puts you in her shoes. It puts you in the movie. It puts you in that moment. Everything is so well done. There's no wokeness to this whatsoever. And bravo, see Hollywood, you can do it. You can actually make a non-woke movie and make movies great. Just stop trying to appease everyone. A saying comes to mind, when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Make a great movie like this. Worry about the haters and critics later. Just know that it's worth it in the long run, long term, to make a masterpiece. In my opinion, guys, this is what this movie is. It's a masterpiece. It's a really 10 out of 10 gem. I can't really think of a flaw about it. It's just really, I've never had an experience, and I've watched a ton of movies. And really, it really evokes that same feeling of watching a Stanley Kubrick movie, like you're watching something special. As a cinema fan, as a movie lover, as a film fanatic, like you're really watching something special, and you just know when you know a movie. Take it from me, movie fanatics, you and all across the audience here watching, you know a great masterpiece when you see one. We knew it when we saw The Dark Knight in theaters. We knew that was going to be a pinnacle masterpiece 10, 20 years from now. We knew when we saw There Will Be Blood, No Country for Old Men, that was going to be a pinnacle masterpiece. Same goes for Clockwork Orange, The Shining. This has that timeless masterpiece feel to it. 10 out of 10. I can't think of a flaw. It's a phenomenal movie. I highly recommend it. Just watch it.